hair. But like I said, visit websites that align with your style and your topic. See how they have addressed this issue. See the angle they approached it from. See how they started and ended the story. Now, I wrote, ensure social media is not your source, because social media is filled with fake news. And it's filled with people just saying their mind, whether it is fact or not. Just yesterday, I was reading about how a particular Nigerian defrauded the UK government. He did not defraud per se. He lied that his life was in danger in Nigeria, and then the UK government dashed him 160,000 is it pounds? 60,000 pounds. And for someone who claimed that his life was in danger, he came back to Nigeria to build a mansion. And then people were saying, on a normal day, UK government would never dash 160,000 pounds. So social media is filled with people just saying whatever they feel like saying. If social media is your source, then you are going to be writing a lot of fake news. A lot. So ensure social media is not your source. Double check your source. Because even platforms that are super credible, they make mistakes once in a while. So you don't just want to use this particular source. It's the same way you will not believe the person that said you should go to Mango. You would want to ask another person. It's the same way when you check a particular website, you read, you digest, you now go to another website to make confirmations. And if both websites are saying two different things, you want to check a third website to ensure that, you double check and triple check also. Then read books. Go to the library. If you are not the reading books kind of person, although if you are a writer, you must read books. It's a must. You can adopt mediums that work for you. There's YouTube. People learn a lot from YouTube. Then you listen to podcasts. And when I say listen to podcasts, I'm not talking about the podcasts that are always arguing about men and women relationship. I cannot live on the mainland, only island. It's not that kind of podcast. You want to check podcasts that are actually, educational enough to give you what you want. And like I mentioned earlier, fact check. Fact check even after you are done writing. So let's say in your work, you wrote in 2022, Obasanjo became the president of Nigeria and blah, 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 blah. After you've written, you are done. You've ended the story. You want to go back to Google. And then what you can do, you can copy that sentence. In 2022, Obasanjo became the president of Nigeria. Paste it on Google. It's Google that will now tell you that, no, it wasn't 2022. It was so and so year. That's if you cannot ask the question, did Obasanjo become president in 2022? You can always paste that line, that sentence on Google and see if there are other websites that verify what you've written. I'm also going to say you can use AI. There are AI tools now. There's ChatGPT, there's Kainene, there's Bard. And a lot of writers now use AI. First things first, I'm going to encourage you not to depend on AI. AI is great, but it is not as dependable as people think. A lot of people now, they are writing their cover letters, they're writing their CV, they're writing their personal statement of purpose, and they will just go to ChatGPT or Bard and say, write me personal sentence or the statement, and that one, and they'll copy it and send. Don't do that. Don't be that kind of writer. If there's anything that irritates me the most about a lot of writers, it's a writer that is lazy. As a writer, you cannot afford to be lazy. So when you have already done your research, put it in ChatGPT or whatever, you have to humanize your stories. But hey, don't let me digress. What I'm trying to say in short is that you can use all of these tools to also fact check your work, but do not depend on AI. They are not as reliable as we think that they are. So fact check your work. And that's why I said research is before you write, while writing, and particularly after you write. So you don't just write and go and say, thank God, I'm done. I know ending a story can be a relief. Say, thank God, I'm done, finally. But hey, you're not done. When you are done, go back, read your work again and again and again. And if you are not sure, if your mind is telling you, this sentence, it looks like it's not true, please check. Checking will not take you up to, it won't even take 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and you're done. So always fact check your work, even after writing. So now we're going to move to structure. But before then, does anybody have anything they want to share or add to this conversation? Or any question? Please feel free to put it in the chat box. Or you can raise your hand if you do. Okay, nobody has raised their hand. So I'm going to assume that we understand everything that I have said so far. Which brings me to the next topic, and that is structure. Now, again, we are coming to the fun part of this class, conversations and interaction. Let's start with exercise 1. You can see these 2 images, and the first image has a question mark, which means that one of the images or one of the shapes in the next image will be moved to image 1, right? I hope we understand. Now I'm going to ask, what should the next shape be? Between A, B, C, D, and E, what do you think should be moved to image 1? Okay, I'm going to start with, who has not spoken in this? Let me start with Mr. Red. You guys, please put on your videos, please. I want to be seeing your faces. Yoruba people will say, Ojuloro wa. Let me see your faces, please. Mr. Red, are you here? Okay, yeah, finally I can see your face. So can you answer exercise 1?
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. If I were to say, I would put E.
Why would you put E?
Okay, it would be because the 4 shapes already are the same. So the way my mind works, I would want a drift. Something different from the pattern.
Okay, that's a very interesting thought process. Okay, Praise.
Okay, for me, I'm going to put B.
Mr. Red, turn off your video. Sorry for interrupting you, but don't turn off your video. I want to be seeing everybody's faces. Yes.
All right.
Praise.
Okay, so like I was saying, I'm going to pick B because when I look at the shades, it's different shades of the same color. So as it's coming, you see that the one closer or a bit higher than the last shade in that first picture there, it's the B. So I'm going to pick the B.
Okay, cool. Another interesting thought process. Who else wants to try? Who wants to try? I'm waiting. I need one more person. Okay, in the absence of any, let me see. What are you going to pick? Okay, you are muted in case you are saying something.
Okay, I said based on what the last person said, is either I put D or B next.
Okay, why would you pick D?
I said B or D, but looking at it, it's better to put B because B is a bit similar to that 4th one.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, YMC. Thank you, Praise, and thank you, Mr. Red. Mr. Red, do you want to say something?
Yes. Okay, so if I don't put E, I would go for A because it's thicker in shade. Let's say we move from something lighter to something bolder. So all of each step should improve upon the next. So I think, okay, I think it's BO, or I'm not trying to, which color is thicker, but something around that line.
Wait, pick a struggle. Is it A or B now? Which one?
Okay, I will go with A.
You go with A. Okay, awesome. Come back to the correct answer later, but let's quickly move to exercise 2. Who can first identify the similarities between these two images? The similarities. Okay, I'm waiting for at least one response. Someone is saying something.
Okay, the two images are market. Like, that's the similarity.
That's the similarity. Awesome. They're both marketplaces. Now, who can identify the differences in these two images?
One is and the other is just
one is
like the one is like the regular local market where everything is exposed and care is not really given to this thing. Why the other one is in an enclosed space and neatly arranged and I don't take the things they want.
Awesome. Yes. So everybody who has spoken got the answers correctly. Now, before I come to the answer for exercise 2, let me jump on exercise 1. So the correct answer for Praise.
I wanted to say something concerning the exercise 2.
Okay.
The first picture there and the second one is the fact that one has a very good, well-structured manner where you can actually find whatever you want to find and it's okay, it's well arranged. Then the second one, it's same market, but the arrangement of things is not eye-catching, it's not beautiful. Yeah, so I think that's just the difference.
Awesome. I love that. Mr. Red, you want to say something? Your hands are up.
Okay, I think from exercise 2 that because they are selling different things, their approach to selling is different. So the ones at the market are selling footwear, so somehow it needs to be on display, visible. But then the other things, I think they are a lot more delicate. So somehow it needed to be, put in a way that suits the kind of product they are selling.
A fair point. Okay, let me start by giving the answer to Praise. You raised your hand.
Okay, I was raising my hand to say that even though it's two different markets, even though it's this, if you take this particular fruits or veggies from this market and bring it to a supermarket, it will be shown there, but it will not be arranged this way. It's going to be arranged in a proper way that it's not necessarily because it's a different market, but it's just the way it's being placed and arranged. I think that's my own take though.
Awesome. That's another valid point to consider. Okay, back to exercise 1. The correct answer is B. Let me tell you why you do not want to put E. Let me start by addressing Mr. Red's choice. Why it's interesting to switch things up a bit. You understand? You cannot, of course, you can do that with writing, but when it comes to structure, you cannot just let me give you a perfect example or an example. Imagine writing about African woman's hair now, and then you've been from first paragraph, you establish that there's a conversation about the woman's hair. Second paragraph, you take people back to the origin of this conversation and the origin of African woman's hair. This second shape is the second paragraph. Now we move to the third paragraph, where you then talk about the systemic discrimination women who are wearing their natural hair face. And then the fourth paragraph, you still talk about the natural hair. And then the fifth paragraph, you now start talking about that was how Shodi. You wanted to buy tomatoes and the seller said it was 200 naira, tomatoes that you have been buying for 20 naira. You see how you have drastically moved from talking about hair to talking about tomatoes. And then when the person is reading, they're like, how did we get here? So moving from the last shape to E is like a very drastic change, something you don't want to do. The essence of structure is ensuring that things are arranged, what's that word? That word, there's one word that starts with CH when referring to arranging things in an order to ensure that there's
chronology.
Exactly. Thank you for that word. So you are arranging it to ensure that the reader has a very, very smooth reading experience, one without bumps. Now, it would have worked if you look at the first design, you will see that the changes in the colors are like very subtle. If you are not careful, you would not see it clearly. At first, they all look like the same color. But when you look at it very well, you will notice that there are very slight differences. They represent how you can glide from one paragraph to another paragraph without the reader noticing. Have you ever read a story where you don't even notice that the story has finished? Like when you get to the last line, you're not looking for the rest. The funny thing about it is that this story can probably be 2,500 words. But you have been so engrossed in the story that you did not even know that it has finished. It's like drinking juice. Sometimes when I finish the chivita, I'm wondering, wait, then I'll shake the bottle and say, it has finished. Because you are enjoying it. So as a writer, when providing structure to your work, it doesn't have to be blatant in people's faces. You only need to arrange it in such a way that people do not even notice that they've moved from paragraph 1 to paragraph 2 to paragraph 3, and they are now currently in paragraph 9. Just simply because they are enjoying the story. Now, if you move from this last color to color A, people are going to notice. Now, if I move color A, let me see if I can. Oh, I don't think I can. I can edit it because I'm presenting. But let's quickly see if it's something that we can work on. So let me move color A. You can still see my screen here. Let me move it to this place. Can you see that from the fourth shape to the fifth shape, you can see the blatant difference, right? Now, imagine you are writing. When people have been moving from here to here, to here, to here, by the time they move to paragraph 5, they notice that very big change. Now, except that is what you are aiming for, it is not advisable, because then you now disrupt the structure and arrangement of your story. But if we move B here, can you see how it blends in? So by the time they even move to paragraph 5, they still would not take note of that big change. Now they can see you moving from, let's say, one topic to another topic, but they are not feeling it. So when you are driving a car, if you enter one big bump, you will know, Abi, you will not know. So I'm using this exercise 1 to show you how important structure is. Structure doesn't have to be in your faces. Structure is ensuring that your story is well arranged in such a way that there is no major bump in the way. There is no major gallop. That the journey, the readability is smooth. Now let's come back to exercise 2. Yes, everybody is correct. The similarity is that they are both marketplaces. But the difference is that one is way more structured than the other. The first one is an open market. It's like going to Balogun market or going to Oshodi market. Sometimes it is not even the shopping that stresses you. It is the waka waka, walking around the market because you are looking for one single tomato to buy. The first one doesn't look nice. It doesn't look palatable to the eyes. Now, when you go to the second one, this second image in this particular supermarket, they sell everything. This is not the full image. If you see this full image, you see that they also sell clothes. They also sell fruits and veggies. The difference is that when you get to this kind of supermarket, you know where tomatoes is. There's an aisle for groceries or detergent. There's another aisle for fruits and veggies. There's another aisle for, let's say, electronics. There's another one for clothing. So when you get there, if clothing is your focus, you know where to go. If veggies is your focus, you know where to go. If you want to buy books, you know the particular section to go. And that is what structure does to you. It helps your readers concentrate. If you go to this first market, the first thing you experience is confusion before you now breathe in and breathe out and say, you know what? I can do this. Let me shop. When you go to the supermarket, you do not experience confusion. Why? Because everything is arranged in such a way that you find your way, you navigate your way very easily. So I'm using this to explain structure in storytelling. Let me move to the next slide. So to understand structure, you have to know that structure is how an author arranges the plots and other elements of a story to create an overall meaning. So you are arranging your story in such a way that the reader has a beautiful experience. Have you ever read a story that's giving you headache? You know, there are some stories that honestly you don't even know what the author is talking about, because the author is just jumping from one paragraph to another, jumping from one topic to another. It's all those stories I always write, and also, you know, so structure is simply how you organize the information that you have gathered after you research. You've gathered info. Now, how do you organize this information to give proper understanding, ensure flow, and improve readability? So now imagine structure as a house. Definitely, the foundation comes before the roof. Is that not so? Now, let's quickly do a quick exercise. You have now eventually gotten to Faringada. You've seen your auntie. How are you going to narrate this story to your aunt? Who is going first? Who has not spoken? Oh my goodness, our session will end in 10 minutes. Okay, let me hurry. Let's start with Miracle. Miracle, quickly. You've gotten to Faringada. You've asked people. This one said mango. Another person said refuge. But now you've seen your auntie. How are you going to narrate your story?
Okay, I'll first explain. Obviously, she knows her phone wasn't on at the time. I'll tell her that would be the reason I had to ask others for directions. And then I'd explain like how I got varying directions and had to rely on Google Maps at the end of the day, and how I finally found my way to her.
Thank you. So you are going to start with your journey first. Then you are going to share how you got to Bukuru. And then you're also going to share that, oh, you asked this person. This person said, go to Mango. But then you asked another person. Another person said, why not just go to Refuge? And then because you were confused, you either asked the third person or you used Google Map. And then the third person said, oh, you can take a bus. This is where the bus to Faringada is. It's right in front of you. And then you go to Faringada. Now, when telling your auntie this story, you're not going to first start by telling her how you got to Faringada before you asked somebody who said you should go to Mango. Or you're not going to say, oh, auntie, when I got down at Bukuru, I now found a bus to Faringada. And then I now asked somebody, the person said, go to Mango. And the third person said, go to Rayfield. But I now eventually got down at Faringada at the bus stop. You can see how confusing that gist is. So when giving your auntie this gist, you are going to arrange it from the top to the bottom. And that is simply you structuring your story in such a way that your auntie understands. So that's simply what story structuring is all about. You build a strong plot. What's the beginning? What's the middle? What's the end of the story? And then you're going to establish which of these comes first. Now, for a lot of fiction writers, storytellers, a lot of them introduce their settings before, the characters. Some of them will even start from the end and then do flashback before they start from the present. Some would tell a story of, an example is probably you want to tell a story of how somebody broke his leg, and then you start from breaking the leg before you now start to talk about how the person had a leg, and then the person had an accident, and so the accident that caused the whole amputation and stuff. So some people start from the end. For a lot of fiction writers, for a lot of essay writers, you don't have the luxury of starting from the end. Or for a lot of academic writers, you don't have the luxury of starting from the end. Instead, you start from the beginning and arrange it, beginning, middle, end. But even if you are starting from the end as a fiction writer, but building a structure is also you arranging it in such a way that your reader understands. So if it is a flashback, they understand that it's a flashback. Then you expand on the basics. You pay attention to how you arrange your paragraphs and sentences. Now, let's talk about arranging paragraphs and sentences, because this is like the most basic form of structure. Sorry, I'm going to be rushing because we have just 6 minutes more. Now, another exercise. Quickly read exercise 4. While some people are reading exercise 4, let other people read the sentence structure paragraph and then point out the problem and how you would have arranged it if you had written the story. So exercise 4, Joy has faced many obstacles as a person living with albinism, one of which is discrimination in the workplace. With her registered NGO, she is helping several people living with albinism, blah, blah, blah. Beyond the discrimination, there are several myths associated with people living with albinism. Joy's lecturer once told her she had supernatural powers. Joy is not alone in garnering awareness for albinism. There are several organizations like Albinism Foundation, Initiative for Advancement of Albinism Cause, and others providing support for people living with albinism. Now look at this exercise 4. There is a problem with the paragraph arrangement. If it were you, how would you arrange these paragraphs? In the next 1 minute, let's talk about that. Who wants to go first? Okay, let me call on Faith. Hi, Faith. If you were to arrange exercise 4, what paragraph would come first and which one would come later? Faith, are you here? Okay, let's move to Sunny. Sunny, if it were you, how would you arrange exercise 4? Okay, Sunny isn't here. Let's move to Miracle. Okay, Mr. Red raised his hands. Go ahead, please. You are muted. You're muted. We have less than 1 minute.
Okay.
Let's try to, rush.
For me, I think that the sequence, paragraph 3 should have come after paragraph 1 because it's a gentle. Paragraph 1 was already talking about discrimination. So continuing from there should have been paragraph 3. And then before the work she does with her NGO, and then ending it with other organizations that are also invested in that.
Awesome. Does anybody have a different opinion? Okay, I don't think so. You're absolutely correct. So this is a perfect example of a poorly structured, essay. This is not the entire essay, So Joy has faced many obstacles. You are already talking about the problem. And then the author now jumps to how she is providing solution. These two would have been perfect if it was followed by paragraph 4, but no, the author now had to go back to talking about the problem and the discrimination. So just like Mr. Red said, paragraph 3 should have been paragraph 2, and paragraph 2 should have been paragraph 3. So you are talking about the problem. You do not jump to solution and then come back to the problem and then go back to solution. That is a rickety drive. You know, it's like driving through Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. I don't know if they fixed the road now. But you know, when you are driving a bumpy road, you will move like this, then swerve like this, then go like this. And everybody in the bus will be doing like this, you know, because they are not comfortable.
Please, they
and
are fixed the road.
Okay. And we look for another road to use as an example. But you imagine driving in bumpy road and everybody doing like this. Even the passengers are not comfortable. Now, this is what you are going to do to your readers. If you do not arrange your sentences, you know, so you want to arrange it in such a way that your readers are actually having a smooth ride by reading. So you talk about the problem, you end that one, then you move to the solution. So for the sake of time, for the problem with this particular sentence, some mornings a speaker from a distant church echoing the voice of a preacher reaches my room. The problem is that the author has made the speaker the subject when the speaker is not the subject. So a speaker from a distant church reaches my room. A speaker cannot reach your room. Instead, it is the echoes, the voice of the preacher that is supposed to reach your room. So how do you rephrase this? Some mornings, the distant sound of a church speaker reaches my room. Now, the distant sound has become the subject. It's okay for a distant sound to reach your room. Or a loudspeaker from the distant church sometimes echoes a preacher's voice into my room. You know, so sentence structure is also how the basic grammatical elements, subject, object, etc. of a sentence, they are put together, they are well arranged, such that the sentence, you know, is structured properly and has that flow. So if you can get your sentence structure and paragraph arrangement right, you have a well-structured story. And with that, I say, thank you. So we have less than 1 minute. I'm so sorry I took this long to explain research and structure. I just wanted you guys to understand. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now.
Thank you.
Does anybody have?
I think we will be kicked out in less than a minute. So if anybody has a question, please drop it in the community and then we can take back the question to Dunsin and, you know, she will respond and we'll